The Lord Ravagers are the anti-paths. The last Myriad Celestia trailer revealed Star Rail's equivalent to the Legion of supervillains, the Masters of Evil, except if all of them were Thanos, because they can and probably have snapped half if not more of the universe of life. And I can guarantee you their method probably hurt a lot more than Thanos's did. Yeah, you thought the Stonehearts were the big baddies? These guys just told them to hold my beer that's probably filled with poison and nightmares. But an interesting fact that was briefly hinted at during the trailer, confirmed through a separate post, that these literal monsters of the universe were specifically designed or selected to be the antithesis of each of the paths in Star Rail. So today we'll be going over each of the Lord Ravagers, who they are, who their targets are, what are their motivations, and why Amphoreus and specifically Phainon might just be the key to the fall of an eon. But before that, do you guys like trying new snacks? Personally, I've always been into trying new foods and new snacks whenever I can, and a big help to that recently has been the sponsor for today's video, Tokyo Treat and Sakura Co. Tokyo Treat and Sakura Co.'s mission is to give you the experience of Japan from the comfort of your home. Tokyo Treat is an exclusive monthly snack box packed with Japan's tastiest and craziest treats. Each month you'll get a rare Kit Kat flavor, limited edition chips, noodles, and the latest treats from Japan straight to you. Of course, we gotta try the Kit Kat, and it's cookies and cream this time. Thing is, cookies and cream brings me back to like my childhood. I feel like that's like every kid's favorite ice cream flavor when they're growing up is cookies and cream. Ooh, that smells like it. That smell brings me back, dog. It's like not as sweet as I thought it would be. And there's a bits of Oreos as well. It's quite nice. That can get really addicting. This could get really addicting real quick. You know what I'm really interested in trying, just based on looking at this book, is this right here. These are fruity fizz gummies. So it has like a fizzy taste to it in the gummy. Smells pretty good. That tastes like really fruity. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, you do get the fizz. That's cool. That is really cool. Sakura Co. is a monthly Japanese snack box that supports your local makers across Japan because, you know, support them small businesses, y'all. Each box is carefully curated with traditional and seasonal snacks like mochi, dorayaki, manju, and much more, including signature Japanese teas and exclusive homeware items, delivering an authentic taste of Japan to your home. This is the Sakura Shrimp Kakimochi. If you don't know, mochi actually has like savory forms of it. It kind of looks like a fancy shrimp cracker. Ooh, there's definitely shrimp in here. Oh my god. Look at this thing. Holy goddamn, it is thick. Oh, that's good. Nah. I'm gonna need more of these. It's like a better version of the shrimp chips that I grew up with. Gotta wash it down with the genmaicha. I'm looking forward to this. I really like rice teas, and this is a brown rice and matcha tea. Ooh, this is like what I like in tea. There's like a nice warm nutty flavor with that like kind of true matcha taste to it. Each box comes with a booklet that explains every snack in these boxes, as well as allergy information, because that's important, and gives fun facts about Japanese culture. Look, even before partnering with Tokyo Treat and Sakura Co., I have bought these boxes as gifts, and people absolutely love them. So if you or someone you care for want to try these amazing Japanese snacks from the comfort of home, click the link below and use code jorjor at checkout to get $5 off of your Tokyo Treat or Sakura Co. box. Thanks again to Tokyo Treat and Sakura Co. for sponsoring this video. Now back to the theory. Each of the Lord Ravagers are emanators of destruction that were selected by Nanook. They are all powerful creatures throughout the universe that have sprouted destructive impulses that are branded with a mark of destruction, granting them power. They are then twisted from the inside out and recast anew in the world of Warforged, ultimately becoming members of the Antimatter Legion. They are then given their own legions to command to carry out the Eon's will, but they all have their own unique philosophies on destruction, making them all very difficult to handle, but not impossible, as Lord Ravagers have been killed in the past. Zulo, a former Lord Ravager, was killed by the Galaxy Rangers, but had to sacrifice themselves in the process. I had also mentioned in a previous video that I believe that the Lord Ravagers would be flips of the paths. I was right, but I wasn't really expecting it to be that direct. Each of the Lord Ravagers are directly linked and designed to oppose each of the paths and eons, to the point where some of them are confirmed former emanators of the paths they now stand against. I'll get more more into the details when we're talking about the individual Lord Ravagers, but Celenova, Zephyro, and possibly even Irontomb are all former emanators of separate paths. And I wonder if that's part of the reason why they're so powerful. If the Lord Ravagers still retain or maybe even still have some access to the powers of their former paths, they would be the equivalent of an emanator of two paths. This might actually be what Boothill was talking about back in Penacony, when he was talking about emanators going back on their paths. It leads to chaos and destruction. He might have been talking about it literally. It also makes me wonder if Duke Inferno had raised his children to reflect that, as each of his children were meant to oppose a specific path. And maybe this was even on purpose, but Constance opposes the Remembrance, as one of the few paths that currently doesn't have a Lord Ravager to directly oppose. And she is the only one of the children that have shown up back in the main story, as she called Black Swan in Penacony after Duke Inferno's death. It might actually be an interesting story point if she was able to achieve what her father couldn't, and become a Lord Ravager, and filling the missing role of the anti-remembrance. In terms of Nanook himself, we do know that he comes from Adlevin, a world that was ravaged from the Swarm and the Mechanical Emperor's War. They see the creation of the universe as a mistake and seek to destroy everything, returning it all to entropy. Their chosen weapons are the Lord Ravagers, and once everything is destroyed, they and the Lord Ravagers will terminate together with the cosmos. How beautiful. It is greatly theorized that the ascension of Nanook is related to the fall of Akaveli, the Trailblaze, due to Akaveli visiting Adlevin right before their rise. I saw a couple of theories that stated that Nanook as a human could have received an Astral Express badge, which could have potentially stopped him from becoming the destruction. But something might have happened that caused Nanook to ascend instead of leaving with the Express. Nanook and even Adlevin comes from Inuit mythology. Nanook's name comes from the god of the hunt and the master of bears. Adlevin is the name for the underworld and the spirits that reside in there in Inuit mythology. In terms of the golden bleeding circle symbolism, which is basically the symbol of Nanook that the Lord Ravagers seem to etch everywhere they destroy, I personally couldn't find anything that would have hinted to its meaning historically. The two closest was literally like Elden Ring and this like weird golden circle theory about communication and leaderships, which I'm fairly sure they're not talking about. If anyone has an idea, please let me know, because it might be actually something very obvious that I'm missing. Now on to the individual Lord Ravagers. We should probably start with Phantylia, as she is the only confirmed Lord Ravager, as of the time of this filming, that we've actually seen and fought. Phantylia is a Heliobus, a shapeless and undying species made out of pure energy. They love to take over and control bodies, as shown with how Ting Yun was taken over and used as a disguise. Heliobi have this obsession with the changes of the nervous system that emotions trigger, and cause their host to experience wild delusions. They spawn from the Flint Emperor that's held in the Xianzhou Juming. A long time ago, before Lan the Hunt's ascension, the Flint Emperor and their spawn, the Heliobi, went to war with the Xianzhou and lost. After being defeated, they were imprisoned on the Xianzhou Juming, becoming their power source. The Heliobi were used to power various tools, creations, and even created cursed swords in the Juming. Phantylia is a particularly powerful Heliobi, possibly even the strongest, with an unusually strong sense of self-awareness. Her specific type of destruction is an internal and self-destruction, influencing various different things to cause internal strife in nations and planets, ultimately leading to those planets destroying themselves. It might actually be related to her Heliobus species, as they were known to take pleasure in wild emotional changes, and for her it might be a particular taste in distrust, conflict, and even anger. Her specific target is the hunt, and the way she's going about it seems to be to cause the ships and the people to have a civil war. If we take her words from the trailer literally, she might actually want to cause a situation where Lan shoots his arrow at a Xianzhou ship. And believe it or not, she was already pretty close to causing a civil war. Her actions in the Law Fu brought back the disciples of Sanctus Medicus and the Ambrosial Arbor, which she absorbed and might have actually gotten the power equivalent to an emanator of abundance, on top of her powers of destruction, mind you, that then caused the Marshal to send two other generals to make sure the Law Fu and Jing Yuan were still loyal. It did end up working out in their favor, but it could have gone very, very badly as well. If the Borson attack wasn't as perfectly handled as it was, then Fei Xiao, if she was even able to retain her sanity, and Hua Yan could have reported to the Marshal that Jing Yuan isn't fit to lead or could even be a potential traitor. And let's just say that the Law Fu is more loyal to Jing Yuan than the Marshal. Now you have at minimum discourse against the alliance, and at most a full-blown civil war. There could be a chance that Phantylia retains the most self-identity because she might be a shadow of the Flint Emperor, who is trapped in the Ju-Ming and made a deal with Lan prior to Ascension to allow him to use the power of the Heliobi during a critical war, in exchange for the Flint Emperor to possess their physical body. Many of the other Xianzhou residents made the same deal. Although, after the war, Lan's physical body disappeared and then ascended as the Hunt, becoming the path that the Xianzhou follows till this day. But the Flint Emperor and the other Heliobi were greatly wounded and returned to being imprisoned. Since the bodies of those who made the deals perished, the deal with the Flint Emperor remains unfulfilled. Thus, if Phantylia has some sort of relation with the Flint Emperor, or possibly one of the Heliobi that made one of those deals, then she definitely has a pretty justified grudge against the Hunt. Interestingly enough, there's actually no evidence of her messing with the Galaxy Rangers, even though at one point they were a pretty prominent faction that followed the Hunt, and even killed the Lord Ravager as well. Could be due to their decline, or could be that they're so spread apart that internal conflict wouldn't really do anything to them. In terms of inspirations from Phantylia, a viewer from one of my live streams actually mentioned the Daji, a shape-shifting evil fox spirit known for her beauty and wickedness, who caused chaos and the downfall of a dynasty in Chinese folklore. Between her impersonating Ting Yun and her method of destruction, it seems pretty faithful to the mythical inspiration. Next is probably my favorite design Lord Ravager, Asat Pramad, previously known as the chess player, as he prefers to study and research civilizations that he attacks and has his forces slowly overwhelm the enemy. That was the original description before the trailer, and I was thinking that that's more around erudition or even the Hunt, as chess is strategic and usually portrayed for smart people. But I didn't take into consideration that at the end of the day, chess is a game, and my man here makes Jigsaw's game look like child's play. He is the Joker if you gave him cosmic powers, to the point where I wonder if the purple highlights on his suit is a reference to the Joker's. His literal tagline is "Bestow the cruelest joke of all, witness the most absurd annihilation." Like, you can almost hear the cackle at the end of that. He is the direct opposition to the elation, and if you wanted proof of that, he burns a smiling face into the surface of every planet he destroys. He obviously has a tie to the elation, and I mentioned before that it seems like a lot of the Lord Ravagers are former emanators or the equivalent of for other paths. The only thing is Aha grants power to whatever they find entertaining, and it's definitely possible that they granted power to Asat in the past. Maybe Asat was always one to play games that would make cruel jokes of worlds and Aha would laugh. But what might have happened is that Asat only found elation in destruction, or in reference to his own words, found the most elation in the destruction of laughter, making a joke out of the jester. Nanook might have noticed and took in Asat, and as he found joy in only destruction, it seemed more fitting. There's also a possible other aspect that as a game master, that he might be looking for someone else in the elation that can match his game. We might actually see him soon, as I believe the elation might be the next path we cover, due to Honkai Impact 3rd having their collaboration centered around Sampo and Sparkle. Also, an interesting note is that the 20-sided dice he uses as a head, the symbols might be referring to the paths, but it's not a one-to-one exact. And there's only 18 paths total, including the fallen ones, so I'm not really too sure where the symbols are coming from. In terms of his name, Asat comes from the Sanskrit word of non-existence, and Pramad comes from the Hindi word of negligence, intoxication, or frenzy. Next up is Zephyro, and he is interesting because he's probably in a similar situation to Acheron as a self-annihilator that withstood the encroachment of nihility, and both want to cut down the nihility. But based on that, it would imply that Zephyro was a former emanator of nihility as well, that then took a turn to destruction, which is terrifying because that would be like if you took Acheron, who is probably the strongest character by lore in the game that we've met, and added on a deep coating of destruction. And the descriptions do reflect that, implying that he's the strongest out of the Lord Ravagers. He's literally a one-man army just cutting down worlds, obsessed with the final moment of annihilation. The worlds that are cut down are left with a white hole that takes in everything. He himself is completely covered in white, as it's believed that he refined his fading colors and made it a sharp white. The trailer does kind of imply that he and Acheron will 1v1 each other, which I guarantee you will be one of the craziest fight scenes in this game. Zephyro's name comes from a blend of the Greek god of the west wind, Zephyrus, and the Greek word for fire, pyro, basically meaning burning wind, which is also reflected in the Chinese as well. Next is Celenova, which interestingly enough is one of the Lord Ravagers we actually might know the most of. She's the leader of the Antimatter Legion. She's come into conflict with the Shenzhou and the IPC. Wherever the Stellaron erupts, Celenova has followed and destroys everything around it. She is the main Lord Ravager that Nanook relies on, as she is the frontline general. It's actually rumored that she is the only Lord Ravager that knows the full truth behind the Stellarons, or even might be the one spreading them. And Celenova is the only Lord Ravager that has a confirmed origin. Nanook personally destroyed a planet of Harmony that held one of its emanators, Eleneve, who was the Eternal Centurion and ironically only ever showed up to represent the Harmony in war, which seems a little counter to the teachings of Harmony, but also might explain why she ended up joining Nanook after being defeated, and as such became the direct opposition to the Harmony. I do wonder if she and or Eleneve has any relations with the Holovians, as she has a halo around her eyes and silver hair, and possibly might explain her exceptional talent as a general, being able to fully understand her troops and enemies, developing the best strategies for warfare. It might be interesting when we meet her in the future if she has any religious reflections to fallen angels, as the Harmony has a lot of Christian and religious references, as Holovians are direct references to angels. Actually, on that note, I just thought of this. There's 7 Lord Ravagers, and there's 7 deadly sins. Might be something, but I feel like that's kind of been overdone. And if they did make it a reference, I doubt they'll make it a very direct reference. It might be kind of an interesting hint. Her name, as far as I know, is a reference to Kella, the Greek word for tumor, and Nova, which is the Latin word for new, so new tumor, which might allude to her connection to the Stellarons, as they are considered the cancer of all worlds. Next is Luxbane, previously known as the Sun Devourer, as they extinguished a third of the stars in the Yavana chain, did not consume any of the planets around the stars, but left it in total darkness, that were then attacked by the Antimatter Legion. I feel like that's just kicking a dead horse at that point. Luxbane is believed to be a descendant of a branch of Leviathans, which are an ancient life form that roamed around the galaxy. They consumed cosmic dust and nebula, and believed to be tied to Ouroboros, the Veracity, which is essentially the path of consuming everything. It would make sense that if Nanook found a living Leviathan that they would take him in. I mean, like, Leviathans already have like a natural destructive tendency because they want to eat everything, but I don't understand why they're meant to oppose the 2 paths that aren't really active anymore. Ouroboros you can kind of make an argument for. Once Klopoth is destroyed, the wall that they built supposedly to keep out the Leviathans will be broken, and someone needs to destroy them. But with the permanents, they are already gone, and sure, their descendants remain, but might actually be parts of factions of other paths. It's also weird that they only consume suns and stars. So I do wonder if it's possibly just the food they prefer, or if there's some sort of hate towards light, as Luxbane does manifest as like a black cloud. Their name is fairly straightforward. Lux is the Latin word for light, and Bane means great distress, so literally the bane of light. This next Lord Ravager is a bit weird, because before the trailer came out, we have never heard of anything that had to do with them at all, no even hints or nicknames. And apparently neither did the Star Rail universe, because it wasn't until Herta and Screwlum looked into Amphoreus the name Archforger came out. From what we understand, they are the one who forges the weapons and the Void Rangers from captured enemies, the architect of the Legion. They are considered the anti-path for preservation, which makes sense. Klopoth builds walls and shields, and Archforger forges all things into weapons. Since they are tied to the preservation, it might be interesting if Archforger was originally a robot designed by the IPC to mimic the planetary building abilities of Klopoth, but ultimately was abandoned, or instead only developed weapons or had destructive tendencies. Nanook might have seen this as an opportunity and opened the path to them because they needed an army, and thus the Antimatter Legion was born. In terms of names, this one's quite literal as well. Arch is a prefix, implies leadership, so very literally chief forger. And finally, let's talk about Irontomb, because they are going to be the Lord Ravager that we have to deal with in Amphoreus, and I am 99% sure it's Lygus, or at least like a version of him. Unlike other Lord Ravagers, they don't actually need any physical presence to destroy a world. And the reason for this is because they mainly target technologically advanced civilizations. They turn technology into viruses, AI becomes paralyzed or attack their allies, and leaves the nation in intellectual collapse. They are the direct opposition of erudition, attempting to reverse all calculations. Now, Lygus did claim to be gazed upon by Nous, and I don't think that was a lie. As we've seen with every Lord Ravager, they have a direct connection with the path they are opposing. It's highly likely that Lygus is a member of the Genius Society. Well, sort of. You'll see what I mean in a bit. Because I believe Lygus is Rupert III. If you haven't read or watched a recap of someone explaining the Mechanical Emperor's War, then I highly recommend it, especially it's going to be important for this story. But I'm just going to briefly cover the main points that are important for this theory. Rupert I is Genius Society member number 27 and Emperor of the Machine Empire. It's also speculated that they might have been an emanator as well. They determined that organic life made no sense and are filled with errors and must be destroyed. They developed the anti-organic equation, which assisted mechanical life forms in developing calculations that would destroy organic life forms. This also affected organic life forms by basically driving them mad, and the only cure was to completely wipe their memory of the mechanical war. By that, we can determine that the equation is a mimetic one, and this is going to be important later. The war ravaged the universe and ultimately ended with Pokokakemon Genius Society number 4 killing Rupert. Later, a human visiting the grave of Rupert I solved the anti-organic equation. He eventually went mad from the equation that he solved and supposedly inherited the memories of Rupert I and continued their will to eradicate all life forms and became Rupert II. They started the Second Mechanical Emperor's War because apparently one wasn't enough, which also destroyed a lot of the universe, but the main important aspect for Amphoreus is that they developed the scepter system, which in an easy way to explain it is a giant hive mind that is supposed to be the imitation of Noose. The scepters are operated by the anti-life equations and created to simulate destructive scenarios for any type of civilization. After the war ended, the scepters were eventually disabled, but some of them did get away, and one of them is powering Amphoreus. During the post 3.3 quest scene at Herta space station, Squilum actually talks about a scepter that evaded detection and that he had to disarm. He then speculated that Amphoreus' actual identity is similar to that lost Emperor scepter, and Lygus may be its operator, or another Rupert hidden from the world. And at the end of 3.3, Herta mentions that there was a scepter that cradled the birth of a certain Lord Ravager. But the key thing here is the way she said it implied the past, like she knows who is this Lord Ravager. And the trailer for the Lord Ravagers implies that Amphoreus is the key to the birth of a new Lord Ravager. So Herta can't be talking about Amphoreus. And I believe she's talking about Irontomb. What I think happened is Lygus found an Emperor's scepter, not Amphoreus's, possibly the one Squilum found later, and they solved the anti-life equation attached to it. And like Rupert II, they inherited Rupert I and II's memories, becoming Rupert III, thus explaining how he received the gaze of Noose, as he has Rupert's memories. Similar to the cleaners of Amphoreus, he may see himself as the same person, as Rupert was a Genius Society member and possible emanator of erudition. Lygus, now Rupert III, realizes that just destroying all organic life might not give them the best result, and inorganic life might be filled with errors as well, and came to the conclusion that destroying all life and starting over is the best result. And from there, they received the gaze and blessing of Nanook, becoming Irontomb. Using an altered version of the anti-life equation, they destroyed advanced civilizations on Nanook's orders. Now from here, we're going to talk about Phainon and Amphoreus' role in Irontomb's plan. Now, as a warning, I'm going to be giving this theory from the perspective of someone who watched the 3.4 livestream and as well as the trailer. And those trailers and live streams involve a bit of a spoiler for the story, mainly in Phainon's appearance, so if you did watch the live stream or trailer and you know what he looks like, then you're fine. I know there's people out there who really try to not see anything at all before playing the story, and I respect that. If that's you, click out of this video now. Thank you so much for watching. Come back at 3.4 and maybe see if I'm right. For everyone else, let's get started. Lygus/Irontomb probably came across another Emperor scepter that was free roaming and had an idea to completely destroy the erudition, to utilize the Emperor's scepter to perfect the anti-life equation by making the anti-life equation itself a Lord Ravager, making a living virus powered by the destruction. Sounds a bit crazy, I know, but hear me out. Irontomb utilized the Emperor's scepter that is powered from the anti-life equation to recreate the destruction of Adlevin, Nanook's home world. What better way to make the most destructive virus by having that virus be represented by the Eon of Destruction? In order to make the virus come to life from calculations, they needed Memoria and the power of remembrance. Thus, Lygus probably made a deal with an emanator of remembrance to make the quote perfect example, a simulated world made from Memoria from a destroyed planet, a model of Foley's end goal. Black Swan even confirmed how impressive Amphoreus is in the eyes of a memo keeper. This emanator was Cyrene and /or March 7th. Whether or not they knew Lygus' Irontomb or not can be up for debate, because Lygus could have easily disguised himself as a scholar of erudition that just stumbled on a functioning scepter. And it's been confirmed that almost no one has ever seen Irontomb's true form. This collaboration created the mimetic simulated world of Amphoreus, a replica of Adlevin, based on the true memories of its civilization. A world powered by the anti-life equation, but made with Memoria. Lygus and/or Cyrene, to ensure that the world would go through its cycles and continue, split their authority as emanators and made the core flames, a similar way to Diamond splitting his divinity to make the cornerstones, powering the anti-life equation with the authorities of emanators. And finally, Phainon came along as the simulated version of Nanook. And you can even see that they do kinda look alike, especially in the original trailer. Phainon gathers the core flames, and it's all is ready for him to ascend. In Lygus' own words, to leave the cave with him. A beautiful reference to Plato's allegory cave, for Phainon to leave and see reality for what it is, and the truth of the universe. With the simulation complete from the Emperor's Scepter, a living version of the anti-life equation given a mimetic form, and with the power of an emanator comes out. And this is even shown in the trailers. There's red and black glitching squares destroying everything. Those same red and black squares are seen in the Black Tide and in Phainon's own kit. Phainon will become the anti-organic equation given form, be gazed upon by Nanook, taking Irontomb's place as a Lord Ravager and achieving their dream of destroying the erudition. And that's my theory for today. If you made it this far in this video, thank you so much for watching. If you like these types of explanation and theory videos, let me know by liking and subscribing. And as always, leave your own thoughts and theories in the comments below. I always love reading them, even if you disagree with me. With that all being said, peace.